Okay, get started. I'll give you a brief overview of it. Probably the first thing to say is, uh, very disappointing loss, frustrating, really unacceptable for our standards. And in terms of the play, uh, it starts and ends with me. I'm responsible for making sure that people don't come and score 22 points on Jordan Hare Field, and they did. And so, you have to look at everything. All options are on the table in terms of making sure we get corrected what needs to be corrected in a fast way. We've got good players. They play hard, and probably I'd say 90% of those snaps, as you grade the film, are really good football. Really good football. They rushed the football 40 times for 122 yards at 3.0 per carry. That's very very good. Really, it's acceptable. They threw the ball. They called 42 passes. They completed 14 of them. And when you do that, you hear that stat, and they averaged, I think it was 5.8 per completion. When you hear that stat, you think, okay, we're or per attempt. I'm sorry. You think, okay, we're heading in the right direction. But at the end of the day, it came down to giving up a big play, which really, in terms of that big a play, the last time I remember one that big, we just, we've had 35-yard passes completed, 30-yard passes completed, but to have a 71-yard pass completed against our top guys, I think it happened last year in one of the non-conference games when we had some younger guys out there, but I don't think we've had a play since the A&M game against the top group. A&M game when the 13-game winning streak started. I think that's the last time we really had a play, and it was a pass, it was a run of that magnitude. And it starts and ends with me. Got to get it corrected. Can't have those things happen. And then the other thing that was probably the backbreaker is, in basically a 60-yard drive, we gave up 30 yards in penalties. The last drive, they earned half of what they got, and we gave them the other 30 yards, and that's on me. And so we worked really hard after the Washington game to make sure that we got better at making sure there was no question about the interference. But obviously we have not made enough progress in that area yet. In terms of this week, you're in the SEC West, you're always going to get everybody's best. Arkansas is, they're upstart with a new staff, and they're going to progressively get better. The challenge is that we got to make sure that we get better, and fortunately we're playing at home. That I'll open it up.
With those pass interference penalties, two different officiating crews in the Power 5 games you've faced, you've had 6 pass interference penalties. Is there anything you can do in the way your guys are playing and adjustments?
Oh, there's always coaching techniques you can do. If you play it right, you shouldn't get the call. If you play it right, and so we correct what we can correct.
So it doesn't change what you do with press man or anything like that.
Well, it's happening at the top of happening at the top of it. So it doesn't matter if you win at the first 3 yards of down, you're probably going to win at the top end. But they still may call pass interference. That's going to happen whether you put the guy off and throw it down like the one on Dean. You're going to have the same relationship. I mean, at the end of the down, it is what it is.
Kevin, what was your take on why you guys weren't able to get more consistent pressure on the quarterback?
Pardon me?
Why weren't you guys able to get more consistent pressure?
Well, if you watch the game, which I'm sure you did, they 7-man protected. So if you're rushing 4 and they got 7-man, you got to choose. You can't pressure every time. If you're rushing 4 and they got 7-man protecting, that's tough sledding. But you got coverage back there, And hey, at the end of the day, it was 42 call passes and 14 completions. You take that 71-yarder out of there, and you and I'll take that and go home every day.
On that 71-yarder, just what happened? I mean, did the guy just?
Well, somebody just didn't do their job.
Yeah.
pretty routine play. Not a fancy play. Pretty routine play. You've seen it in fall camp, seen it in spring practice. Played the coverage against it. We just had we had a mental error.
How did this game compare just with the mental errors and grading guys out and mistakes they made to others? Was it?
No, the mental errors, missed tackles, that kind of stuff was not, not. In fact, it was relatively compared to any game. The thing that happens is from our seat, we grade really, really hard. Well, everybody wants to focus on that when the score's not right. Well, we focus on that when the score is right. So in that regard, this game tape's no different than any other game as far as a coaching standpoint. The result is different, but everybody thinks we walk around here after we win and say, oh, everything was great. We didn't, you did good. Well, no, that's because you win. That's not the way it works. I mean, we're coaching every guy on every play and grading them every game. And so when people, watch a game and say, boy, you played great. Well, if you watch the film, there's a pretty good list of things you better do better. Or eventually it's going to expose you. It didn't happen then. General public doesn't really see it. We see it. And so in terms of just comparing that to this game, it really wasn't a whole lot of difference other than two critical pass interference calls in the last game, last drive, and the big play.
Did Deshaun grade out as well as he looks to the?
He played really well. He was the top point getter by a long margin.
Yeah, KJ played more against, I guess, this in terms of competition yesterday than we've seen him against a team like that. What did you see out of him in that?
Well, he's a good young player. He's a good young player. He's got a nose for the ball. He's a good young player.
Kevin, Deshaun felt like that he was not getting a real good shot before you came. What was it about him that got your attention?
Well, I'd say this as standing here. Bless his heart, but we didn't have nobody else. If you remember, the ones we're playing with now and put Trey Williams with them, that's all we had. So, hey, you got to become a player. Well, he thought he was anyway, so it worked out good.
How did Derek Brown look?
Obviously, just like I said, I mean, he played really well most of the game, but I mean, every player out there, every coach on defense, every player out there, every week we have things that we got to do better. Everybody. And so that's no different this week. I mean, there's some things Derek would like to have done better, but there's some things he did very, very well.
Kevin, you talked about defending on the first 2 or 3 yards of a route.
Right.
What do y'all need to do better in that?
We've been pretty good there since, really good. You really have. A couple of times we've had some younger guys early on in the season, but, we got most of that cleaned up. We've been pretty good in the first 3 yards of the down.
You guys obviously have really high standards on third downs as a whole. How do you think you
Well, the first couple wasn't very good. The first one was on me. That's mine. I own that one. Just not a very good call in that situation. But I think we were, I think they were 2 of 9 the second half or something like that. And then after the third quarter, it was, what was it, Kirk? After the first quarter? 3 of 13 after the first quarter. So, that's our standard. It's better than our standard, actually. The first couple were not what we needed, but I told you who owned that first one. So, see, it's not just players that's got to, I'm responsible for what happens. I am. And that's on me. The whole thing's on me. And that's not coach speak. That's just the way it is. I have a job to do, and that's to prepare guys to go play at a high level. They played hard. We played some really, really good snaps, a lot of good snaps. But we're in the correction business. Every Sunday and Monday, we're in the correction business in a major way, regardless of what the score is. And when it doesn't tally up on our side, it starts and ends with me.
You talked a lot about, you react the same way after a game, no matter what happens. And Deshaun Davis being one of your leaders said he knows everybody's going to turn to him. And
Yeah.
right in that moment, how did the guys react today?
We had a good practice. I mean, but that's the standard. You know, we have a 24-hour rule. You know, you can't beat a #1 team and come back the next week and think you arrived. You know, you just can't do it. And so you gotta get better each week. So we had a good practice, had good focus, good energy. We can't allow it to be any other way. I mean, you know, I guess it's okay to go to the coffee shop and still be talking about the game on Wednesday, but we can't live in that world. I mean, you know, when you get little to no sleep after a game, you come to work the next day, watch the film or watch it the night before, you grade it. It's not a very good feeling. And then you gotta make sure that you stay on the facts, okay? Not the emotion, okay? What can we do and how can we do it better? How can we help these guys get better? What can we do to make them better football players? What can we do to make sure that doesn't happen again? And that's after a win or a loss. It just you probably do it after a win with a little bit more sleep than you do after a loss. But then once you flip the switch and have to go to practice, we got to be thinking about Arkansas. I mean, you can't let a team beat you twice. You can't let that happen. That's, you know, I've seen it happen before, and you've seen it happen before. Can't let it happen.
Did anything specific happen on the 4th down conversion?
Pardon me?
Did anything specific happen on the 4th down?
No, I think we probably, you know, if you undercut a ball, you got to get it. You can't undercut a ball if you don't get it. And so, you know, other than that, no, it came out pretty quick. And we were under pressure. It wasn't going, you know. And we got home talking about 4-man rush on 7-man protection. There was a lot of 7-man protection or blockout protection, meaning if they were going to stay in until they figured out if more was coming, and then it come out late, but they were not part of the combination, if you will. But again, like I said, I mean, it was you can't do this. We own it. But you take the 71-yarder off, I think it was 154 yards passes and 14 completions. You know, you can't take the 71-yarder off. But we wouldn't probably be having that discussion if you could. At 154 yards passing with 14 completions on 42 call passes, take that and go to the house every day.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.